Begin the current Daf Mesechtes Nedarim Daf Mem Aleph. We begin on the middle of Daf Mem Beis, 3 lines up or down from the top of the bottom of the Amid, where it's interesting why this teaching comes in. So some Gemaras have a different girsa, not Amar Rebbe Ami Amar Rav, but rather Amar Rav and Amar Rav, which that would make sense because that would also relate to the other unrelated teaching from which we had skipped that big run, which was about mikvahs, which also was unrelated, but it was just other teaching Amar Rav and Rav, or actually you'll keep it as Amar Rabbi Amar Rav, and they actually switched the previous teaching also to Amar Rabbi Amar Rav. But be that as it may, we're just continuing with an unrelated teaching, and then we'll go back to the theme of the previous dafim of Bikr Chaylim. But that's why this next teaching comes in, because it's just the same Amar. Some of the discussed in today's daf are primarily the Gemara continues teaching about the mitzvah of Bikr Chaylim, which of course that came on to the topic of this parak because we're talking about Mudr Hana, and one of the halachas were regarding Bikr Chaylim as a Mudr Hana, how that relates. Additionally, the Gemara continues with some halachas regarding Bikr Chaylim, that you only visit a sick person like a similar type when people have fever. Meaning, in contrast, you don't do Bikr Chaylim for Chaylim Ayin, someone has intestinal illness or illness with an eye, or if he has a headache. As the Gemara will explain why those type of people you don't visit. Regarding a Mudr Hana, the Mishnah tells us Meraper is gufay, that you could heal his body, but Leirefu is behemte, not of that of his animal, again because of the Isser Hana, and the Gemara is going to explain why his self would you permitted to be healing, but not for his animal. Then finally, the last sugya the Gemara discusses whether if you have a Mudr Hana from someone, are you allowed to bathe together with him in a large pool? Are you allowed to sleep with him in a large bed? What about, let's say, in the summer months? Because the question is, are you benefiting the other person by being in his vicinity and proximity because of the warmth or because of causing the pool of water to flow by him? And additionally, are you allowed to go work on the same plantation near him or far from him? Again, would that be considered benefiting him or not? So begin the current daf, first on unrelated teaching, on the middle of daf Memam Beis. Amar Rebbe Ami Amar Rav says, what does it mean the following pasuk in Yechezkel, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling to Yechezkel, Ba'ata, and you Ben Adam, son of man, make for yourself a vessel of exile, and prepare yourself because you're going to go into exile. So what's the Klei Goyla? So on that says Rav Zuner. This refers to having a lamp, a ka'ara, and a plate, and as a getin tab mem alef and aleph v'shatiach, which the Ran explains that it's like a placemat, basically a piece of leather that you eat on. Those are the things that a person who's wandering needs to have. Those 3 things. Similarly, the Gemara brings that the pasuk says in Devarim, it's saying that regarding the teichacha, that you're going to do bad, then you're going to have to serve your enemies that Hashem is going to send you over there with hunger and with thirst and with totally undressed. And the pasuk says, and b'chayser kol, you're going to be lacking everything. What's everything? So again, it's another teaching from Amar Rabbi Amar Rav. It says b'lei ner b'lei shulchan. You're not going to have a lamp, you're not going to have a table. That's how far it's going to get that you're not going to have anything. What's kol are these basic necessities. Chizdam, he says, no. B'chayser kol, the curse that you're going to have from the rebuke if you're not going to keep the Torah, is that, what do you mean you're going to be missing everything? It means b'lo yisha, you're not going to have a woman. Rav Sheshami says, b'lo shambish, means you're not going to have a waiter. If Nachman says, b'lo deya, it means to say you're not going to have intelligence, you're not going to have understanding. Tanav in the Brisa, it actually means b'lo melech, without salt, b'lo revav, and without grease. Schmaltz. Those are like, this is the basic necessities, meaning that's what it means. B'chayser kol, you're not going to have everything. That's all these different interpretations. What does that mean? What's the basic staple that you're going to be missing? Now, similarly, like the way Rav Nachman said, Amabaya says, like, Tina, we have a tradition, in on the Elabadeya. When we talk about poverty, we don't mean financially, we mean with intelligence. And when we're saying that you're going to be missing, that's what it means. If par means you're just not understanding things. Abimarav Amri, people know this because it's a popular song. In the West, they say Didobe, that the one that has this, that meaning Dido, that this bay is in him, this referring to the das, the da, that this is bay in him, kule bay, then everything is in him. The loy da bay, that if this is not in him, ma bay, what is in him? Da kane, if he acquired this, ma chase, what is he missing? Da loy kane, if he has not acquired this, then ma kane, what has he acquired? Meaning, as the Ran explains, what is it going to help him? All the acquisitions that he gets. If you don't have daya, if you don't have intelligence, you don't have understanding, then nothing's going to help. You could have all the mansions in the world, you could have all the acquisitions in the world. It's not going to give you anything until you have daya. So, and again, that's the like similar to Rav Nachman said, b'chaytzer koil is you don't have a daya has garnished. Now the Gemara goes back and continues with the theme of Bikur Chaylim that it was talking about in the previous dafim. Amar Alexandri, Amar B'chia Bar Abba, he says, a sick person does not recover from his illness until they forgive him for all his sins. Shlomo says the pasuk in Tehillim, it says that he forgives for all your sins, and he heals for all your illnesses. So you see that slicha comes before refuah, as we have in davening. So that tells us this idea that you have slicha, you have the mechila, and then you have the healing. Another teaching, Rav Amnuna Amar, he says, actually, after the sick person gets healed, he actually goes back, his nature actually becomes stronger and healthier than he was before his illness. As in anyone who knows anything about like a workout, training, you tear that muscle, so actually that's how you get stronger. So in a way that when you get sick and you get stronger after you get healed. It says a pasuk in Eiv. It says Rutafash Bisare, which it's a compound word. It's Rotov and Fash, which is moist and like expansive and proliferating. That's how Bisare, his flesh is, Minoyar, more than the youth. Yashuv Limei Alumov, he goes back to the days of his young years. So you see that when he heals, he's even stronger. The Gemara brings a pasuk in Tehillim, which the Ran's going to learn a different. Obviously, has a different girsa, but the pasuk is Kal Mishkavei Hafachta B'Chal. His whole bed you have turned over in his illness. So Amar Rabbi Yosef, he says that means Loimar de Meshakech Limudei, that he forgets his learning. Now the Ran learns it from the word of the previous pasuk that we brought of Yoshev Limei Alumav. He expands the word Alumav from the word Halama, which in other words, all the order that is spread out of his learning, that's organized for him, you flipped it over in his illness, meaning that he forgets his learning. So again, different sources where that's from, but be that as it may, when someone becomes sick, he forgets his learning. Now, the Gemara actually tells us that this teaching was from Rabbi Yosef. Now, it's well known, Rabbi Yosef Chalash, Rabbi Yosef became ill, and the Akilei Lemuda, he forgot his learning. Ahadri Abaya Kame Abaya was a student, he returned the learning to Rabbi Yosef. And this is Hain the Badol, the B'chol Ducht. I mean, this is what we find throughout Shas, that Rabbi Yosef says, Lo Yishmili Hadashmaita, he says, I never heard this thing. Normal Abaya says, what do you mean? At Amrita Nalon. You had told this to us. It was from this Bryce that you told it to us. In other words, he kept on reminding him that of his learning that he forgot because he became sick. So we see this idea in Rabbi Yosef himself. Similarly, the Gemara brings another story regarding forgetting the learning and being brought back to it. Rebbe, when Rebbe would learn Tlas Esri Ape Hilchasa, when he would learn a sugya, and he had 13 different ways of explaining that halacha. So he taught Rabbi Chia Shivim 7 of them. Now, L'Soiv Chalash Rebbe, at the end Rebbe became ill, and he forgot his learning. So Hadi Rabbi Chia Kamei, so Rabbi Chia, however, returned, so to speak, to him Hanish Shiva Aped Agmari, the 7 ways of learning the sugi the way he had told it to him. But Shita Azda, 6 were lost because Rebbe only taught Rabbi Chia 7 out of them, not all 13. But Havahu Katza, there was a launderer that have a Shmiele Rebbe. He heard Rebbe could have a garas lahu. You know, sometimes the clean lady might know better than anyone else, and knows the bar mitzvah pshat by heart because the shaggy says, like so. Here's the guy, the cleaner, and he hears Rebbe saying over all these 13 mahalchim. So Azal Reb Chia v'Gama Yasun Kamekatsra. So so Reb Chia went and learned it and from the katzra, from the launderer, and then Reb Chia went and taught those mahalchim that he never knew, and he taught it back to Rebbe. When Rebbe would meet this katzra, Rebbe said, you made me and Chia by teaching us this halachas that I forgot because of my illness. That those say a slightly different version. He told him, Ata says Chia, you made Chia, because Chia went and learned it from him. Chia made me, because then he went and taught it to me. Another teaching, says, Godel nes shenas l'chayla. It's greater the miracle that happens for the sick person. Greater than the famous miracle of Hanani Mishal Bazar that was saved from the kivsh and the eish, from the fiery furnace that they were thrown into, because Shalchanani Mishal Bazarya Eshel Hedyed. That was just a fire of mankind. Everyone could extinguish a man-made fire. The fire of the sick person is a heavenly fire. Who could extinguish it? And therefore, when the person is healed from his illness, it's a greater miracle than Chanani Mishal Bazarya. Another teaching from Amr Alexandria, some say was, and that's the same Amr that said the previous teaching, or Amr La Amr B'Shuma Levi, and that's why it relates back to the previous, even though it's unrelated seemingly, but it's the same Amr. But Amr La, some say was actually Amr B'Shuma Levi. Once it comes time for a man, for this person's end, Hakol Moishlam Bay, everyone rules over him. Shnemak says in the Pasuk Bereshis, Kayin was telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu that here, you're telling me that I'm liable for having killed the brother. He says, and whoever is going to find me is going to kill me. Meaning, everyone rules over this person. Whatever it's going to take, anyone's going to make it happen that you're going to die if it's your end. So that's what Kain was saying, kol, because everyone's going to do it. Rav Amay says, min hadein kra, he brings a different pasuk in Tehillim. For your judgment, they're standing today, because everyone is your servants. Meaning that since they're standing for your mishpat, meaning that it became time for that person to die, everyone is avodecha to fulfill your mishpat to make this guy die. So that's what the pasuk is telling us, that no matter who it is, it's going to happen. As the Gemara brings a story that Rabbi Shila, Amrle, they told him, Shachiv Gavro Gavaya, a tall person passed away. What happened? Havarochiv Girdoina Zutra. He was riding a small mule. Mota Titaita. He reached a bridge. Istivit. Then a spirit of retardation took a hold of this mule, and Shadye, and it threw him, and it flung him into the river, because Shachav, and he passed away. So Kari al Navshi, so when Rabbi Shila heard this, he said this on himself, for your judgment they stood today, whatever it's going to take. Here you have a strong guy, healthy, robust, who has to die. Yeah, Hashem makes the mule have just go crazy and throws him off, and then you have Superman who's suddenly a cripple. That's what it is. Whatever it takes, Hashem's going to make any creature do this. Similarly, Shmuel Chazi Lahu, the gear says Akraba, that he saw there was a scorpion, Yesiva ala Kregsa, was sitting on a frog, a female frog. Rava Nahara, and it passed the river. Tarka Gavra Mayas, and then the scorpion bit a person and he died. So Kari Aleh, you say, recite on him, L'mishpatecha amdu hayem. For your judgment they stand today, meaning the scorpion couldn't cross the river. The frog carried the scorpion over the river to bite the person. And that's Hashem is going to say everyone is going to take a part in this to make this person's end happen. Another teaching, Amar Shmuel, he says, you don't visit a sick person, only someone that is clothed in a fever. What do you mean clothed? So like a person that's fortified, that is all wired up with weapons, that is called chalutz. So that's what it means. You're all covered and you're all weaponed up with fever. Now, question is lafuke mai. Well, obviously, it doesn't mean literally you have to have a fever to be visited. What's it coming to exclude? So the Gemara says, Lafukha de Tanya. We're coming to exclude what we learned in the following brisa, meaning Shmuel holds like this brisa that you don't visit those things that the brisa is going to count. When Shmuel says you only visit someone that has a fever, he meant stuff like a fever, that visiting is not detrimental, excluding those things that is detrimental. If Yisib and Parta Oimim Shum Rebel Yassi says, Imavakin, you don't visit, not someone that has a stomach disorder, not someone that has an eye disease, and not from those who are suffering from a headache. So the Gemara wonders, I understand intestinal illness because of embarrassment, because sometimes he's going to have to relieve himself and he's going to be embarrassed, so it's not something that he wants visitors for. But an eye illness, or if he has a headache, my timer, what's the reason those types of people you don't visit? So the Gemara says, because of Rabbi Huda. Because Rabbi Huda says, Dibura kashila eina. Speaking is very harsh on the eyes, and as the Rosh says, also headaches is also hard to speak. It's the same nature, he says, and therefore he doesn't want visitors. This is Timet Taiba. I need time to just, to get over it. But someone to come visit and wants to start schmoozing and he's getting a headache. That's not good. A fever, says the Gemara, ma'ali le'ishta, but it's helpful for a fever. A fever, you talk and this and that, it'll help. So Bikur Chelim is effective, but those types of things that's what he was coming to exclude. Now, going back on this idea about fever, so Amar Rabbi says, Hi Ishta, this fever, ilav de parvanka de malacha de moisa, if not for the fact that it's the agent through which the angel of death kills people, if not for that, Mali, it's so effective as Getintum and Beis, Kichizra, like the thorns that surround the tree, that it protects it from the wild animals. A fever is a good thing. A fever is something that actually is helpful for the person, if not for the fact that it actually kills people. So you have to understand the exact parameters of, but it's like Kechizla dikli, like the thorns of a palm tree. Chadl Klas and Yamin, meaning once every 30 days, it actually would be helpful to run a fever. And it's like a type of a remedy, like a potion for the body. However, Rav Nachman Yitzcham, he says, Loi hi v'loi tiraki. I don't want not the fever, I don't want not its medicine, I prefer not to have a fever at all. Now, Amar Rabbi Yonis and Amar Rabbi Chiel, he says, arson is yafal l'chayler fuasai. Arson is good for a sick person for his healing. So it's my arson. So Rabbi Yonis, it's chushla desairi. It's peeled barley that's atikta, that's old, diresh nafya, that's from the beginning of when you start sifting with the sieve, which Amabaye says bayin bishul, and that's good for a sick person. Amabaye says bayin bishul, a cooked egg, is kein bister the tuda, is like the meat from an ox, meaning healthy, good, strong meat, protein. He says a cooked egg is just as good. Now, another interpretation of what arson is slightly different. Rabbi Yisrael says it's smidi desadi atikti, not chushlo, but it's the fine barley flour, the fine old barley flour, the reshnafya, that's from the beginning of when you start sifting. And here also Mabaya, he says bayin bishula, again, a cooked egg is kibisu the Torah, is like the meat of an ox. I'll continue on regarding which type of sick people you visit and which you don't. He says bardam, which bardam is a compound word. It's bardam, literally means a pit of blood. What is that? It's a type of illness that actually flows blood from the person's lower region. It flows blood. So such a type of a person, a mavakrim, you don't visit such a person. And maybe this could be on someone here in the shul once made a video about how you do bikkur chaylim. Maybe we could go into that video of who you do bikkur chaylim for and how you do it. But so such a person you don't visit because sometimes he's going to have to relieve himself and is going to be in a lot of pain. So again, these types of people you don't visit. And actually, you don't even mention its name. In other words, you don't say that person has these bardam illness because it's not a lashon naki. It's not a bardam, definitely, and what it refers to is not such a refined way of speaking. So not only you don't visit such a person, you don't even mention it. Says my time, as the Gemara explains, because it's like a flowing fountain. And Rabbi Elazar says, Lama Nikra Shmoi Bardim. Why is it called Bardim? Again, because it's like a spring, which is like a bardam. That's like a pit of blood. So it's not really such a thing that's so appetizing that people want that to have visitors or people to even mention what it is. Now, the Mishnah had said, going back to our main theme of this parak, the Mother Hana. So he said that you could go ahead and heal the mother's allowed to heal the mother refuas nefesh, a healing of the soul, but the Mishnah said refuas mammon, not a healing of money. So the Gemara wonders, well, what does that mean? Nefesh that you could do, and mammon that you can't do. Nefesh. If that's you're saying you're allowed to heal a nefesh, that means bechinam for free. Why would that be in the word nefesh? So because the word nefesh actually means to say ratzain, desire. We find the pasuk not so long ago in Bereshis, im yeshes nafshechem. If this is what you want. In other words, the word refuas nefesh would really mean that merapeu beratzain liboy, that he's healing him with the desire of his heart. What does that mean? Not for pay. So, according to that, the Ran explains the Mishnah would be talking about when who's the mudra and who's the mother. It's when the chayla's stuff are forbidden on the one who's healing him. So that would be okay because he's not benefiting him with any payment because he's doing it for free. So he's allowed to heal him a refuas hanefesh, meaning beratzin, meaning willingly, without pay. But refuas mammon that we're saying is forbidden, it means beschar, meaning getting paid for it. So that would make sense if you said that it was the nechsei chayla asurin al raife. That we're saying that he can't go ahead, that he can't do it for pay, but he can do it for free. So the problem is, if that's the case, listen hachi, then you should have just said straight up, but I pay a bechinam awalei beschar. It's very complex wording for you to say you do refuas nefesh, but not refuas mammon. Should have just said he could do it for free, but he can't do it for pay because again he's not allowed to benefit from the chayla. So it says Ella rather no, we're talking about where the other way around. The nichsei raife are forbidden on the chayla, meaning the mother was the doctor, and he said he's not benefiting this person who ends up being the sick person. So therefore, it says follows. Refuas nefesh, the healing of the nefesh that we said is permitted means gufay. It means his body. Now, when you heal a person's body, you're doing a mitzvah. Refuas mammon that we're saying is forbidden is behemtoi, is his animal. Now, there's a difference of opinion in the Rishonim here on the page how to interpret it. The Rush wants to say, yeah, refuas nefesh is a mitzvah. And you're not taking payment for it, but healing someone's animal, you're not doing a mitzvah, and you're benefiting him if you don't take pay. What's in Marza Avidasai? So it says, no, the Torah didn't command you to heal someone else's animal. So you're not allowed to heal his animal, but you're allowed to heal him. The Ran says differently. The Ran qualifies, and he says that when we're saying that you're not allowed to heal his animal, is talking about when there's no other, he's saying when there is another doctor, meaning that's not when you're not allowed to heal his animal. Because if not, it says actually you are allowed to heal his animal. If you're a veterinarian and you have this guy who you took a neder on, you would be permitted to heal his animal. Why? Because the Mishnah teaches on Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph that even a guy who's mudar hano is machtel abaydasai. We said you're allowed to go ahead and return his lost object. Now, says the Ran, there's no greater hashavas aveda than to heal his animal. So obviously that it's talking about that there's another doctor. Wait a second, there's another doctor, so why are you allowed to heal him? Why are you allowed to benefit him? So he says that, no, you're allowed to heal refuas hanefesh, his body, because, as he brings from the Yishalmi, shaloi min hakoil adam zeichel lehisrapis. A person does not merit to get healed from any single doctor. Meaning, there might be 10 doctors, but this cardiologist is the guy that's going to help him. And therefore, even though he's mudur hano and he's forbidden to have benefit, says the Ran, that is going to be permitted even when there are other doctors, because he might be the one. Versus Mammon, we don't say such a thing. And therefore, when there are other doctors, that's when we're saying you cannot heal his animal. But if there would be no other ones, he says yes, because that would be like Hashabas Aveda. Now, however, the Gemara concludes that Amr Zutra Bar Tovi Amr Rav, he says, although we said regarding his animal, you're not allowed to heal when there's other vets, but he could tell him, Sam Ploini Yafala, I just want you to know that this medicine would be good for your dog. Sam Ploini Rala, but this medicine would be bad for it. So the Ran explains, because since he's not directly applying the treatment to the animal, that's permitted because this is a theme the Ran has been saying often in the past dafim, because that's called Hana Memela Asya. The benefit comes by itself. That type of thing is permitted to be done. But to go ahead and actually do it, that's what we're saying is forbidden. So the Ram wants to infer from this, he says, so wait a second. That means to say that Berefu is Gufai, that we're saying is permitted. That would mean obviously that you're allowed to even do the treatments yourself directly on the patient. That would be permitted. However, he does point out something very important, as he's pointed out a few times in the past. This would be specifically if you're taking the medicine from the mudder himself. You're just applying the treatments. But if to take the mother's own creams and his own potions or whatever medicinal elements he has, that would be forbidden. Because even if the mudder, the subject, doesn't have what to heal himself with, that he's doing a mitzvah, the doctor, even so, since he's giving his own thing from him to him, what's called miyad liyad, that would be usher. Just like the case when someone's mudar hana from his chaver, where we say you can't give it to him directly, you have to put it on the rock, but you can't give it directly, like we said in the Avlamatesima base. Now, one other more important qualification that the Ran says, which he's also said a few times in the past, that where the sick person made himself forbidden on the sick person that said to the guy who's a doctor, said, I want nothing to do with you, and I'm making myself totally forbidden from having benefit from you. So he says that maybe that it would be permitted for the doctor to actually even give him his medicines and his creams. Why? Because we said min chiyusei lo adre, from his life, then that a person would never take a neder. So since he needs the extra tablets that he has over there in the office to use, so maybe then he would be permitted to get from him even what we call miyad liyad, because that's not something that he would have made himself forbidden. It's only when the doctor made himself forbidden on the patient. There's a difference who made the neder. Ran says this a few times. If the doctor made the neder on the patient, or the patient's prohibiting himself from the doctor. Doctor doing it on the patient is all across the board. But he's still allowed to do the treatments because of the mitzvah, and he's not taking any payment. But regarding giving it actually his own stuff to him, that he's not allowed to do. Whereas if the patient made the doctor's stuff forbidden on him, that would be permitted, because that would be what we say, Michayus Adri doesn't take a neder, prohibiting himself from something that he needs for his own life. Now we continue on the next Mishnah, continue on this theme of the Mudr Hana. What are other activities that could or could not be done between the Madr and the Mudr? So the Mishnah tells us, he's allowed to bathe with him in a large pool. Why? Because since it's so large, so the water is not going to go up for the other one because you're coming into the pool. Oh, a huge pool, you're coming in, it's not going to affect the other guy, the Mudr, Avalabiktana, but not in a small one. Because you go into that small mikveh, you come in there, the guy is like a tidal wave. It's just like, and it's affecting the other person. So you're benefiting him because you're having the water wash over him. Again, if that would be a benefit, depending on the circumstance. But therefore, you're allowed to bathe with him in a large pool, but not in a small pool. Additionally, says the Tana Kama, you're allowed to sleep with him in the bed. Yehuda, he says, which the Ran explains that he's explaining the Tana Kama. When the Tana Kama said, "V'yashin imoy b'mita," specifically says Rabbi Yehuda, that's b'may sachama. That is going to be specifically in the summer months where you don't really have any pleasure of the warmth that you get with another person there in the bed. But you can't sleep with him in the same bed in the winter months. Why? Neshahu, because he's going to warm him up and he's going to be mahanehu, he's going to benefit him, like the pasuk says in Kehelis. In Yishkevu Shnaim, if two people sleep together, and it's warm to them, and therefore that would be forbidden for you guys to sleep near each other because that would be benefiting with the warmth. Now the Mishnah continues that umesiv imoy alamita, he's allowed to recline with him on the bed, meaning they used to eat on couches in Talmudic times. So that was like beds, these couches. And so even in the winter months, where you guys are reclining and eating, so that's not considered so much of a warmth that would be considered such a benefit. So you can recline on the couch, and you can eat with them on the same table. That's also a chiddush. What's the chiddush in that? Is that we don't make a gzeira that maybe you're going to eat from the portion of the other guy. Maybe you shouldn't let him eat on the same table because it might benefit him. No, we don't make such a gzeira. But he cannot go ahead and eat from the tamchui. What's tamchui? Tamchui is a large platter. So if they put in front of this poo-poo platter, they put this like large platter in front of these two guys, no, that they can't do. Why? Because what happens is if one of them eats a little bit and the second one eats a lot, comes out that he's benefiting him from his friend not having eaten so much. So you can't serve them that type of tamchui. But what he could do is he could eat with him from the tamchui, a different type of one. That's chayzer. What does that mean? What do you mean that's chayzer? It's chayzer labalabayis. What do you mean it goes back to the homeowner? Meaning this is such a huge platter that it's not possible that you guys are going to eat whatever is inside of there. So the extra is going to be going back to the balabayas. So in such a situation, when these two guys are eating from this platter, they're not benefiting each other. I don't care how much you're going to fress up and I'm going to eat less. I'm not benefiting you because you're not getting to the bottom of this platter, unless you're in Nathan's on a certain time of the year. There's no one's getting to the bottom of this plate. So if that's the case, you're not benefiting, and then you guys are allowed to eat together from the tamcha chayza. Now, related to the Mishnah, the Gemara elaborates. Tanya learned the Brisa. Lo yirchetzimay bamvati. So you're not allowed to bathe with him in a pool or bathtub, whatever this large pool of water is, and you can't sleep with him in the bed. Ben gedoyle ben getan, with a large bed, with a small bed. That's divrei meir. Yudaime, he says that no, it depends. Gedoyle, a large bed, b'maisag shamim, in the winter, viketana, or a small bed, b'maisag chama, in the summer. Mutter, it's permitted. Well, that makes sense, right? Because even in the winter when you get warmed up, but if it's a large bed, so you guys are not really warming each other up, or in a small bed where you guys are warming each other up, but it's in the summer, it's not geshmak, you're not benefiting, so those would be permitted. Additionally, he says, he says, and regarding your halacha of the pool, he says, this that you're saying, carte blanche and all these things are forbidden. So first of all, I disagree with you regarding the beds. And I also disagree regarding the bath, the pool, that you could bathe with him in a large pool. Meaning, like Duran explains, that Reb Meir was saying, the Tanakam was saying, that you're not allowed to be in the pool or a bed with the mudder, whether it's large or small. And that was on both halachas. That is because Reb Meir is geyser by a large pool, even though you're not benefiting him, because of a small pool where you would be benefiting him. And he does the same thing regarding the bed. He says you can't be with him in the same bed, whether it's large or small, even in the summer month, which is for sure not any benefiting. No, because of a small bed in the winter months, which you would be benefiting him. Now, Rabbi Huda disagrees on both of these points. First of all, regarding when it's large bed, and even in the winter it's going to be permitted, because we don't make a gzeir of a large bed because of a small bed. And even a small bed, although in the winter that's a problem, in the summer it would be permitted because we don't make a gzeir of yomei sechama otu yomei sechshamim that we're not allowed to let in the summer because of the winter. Now, says the Ran has to tell us this idea. He says from here it sounds like that Rabbi Yehuda that said in the Mishnah that the halacha of sleeping in the bed is in the summer, not in the winter, it must be what he calls Perusha Kumafadish, like we had said from the Ran in the Mishnah. He was just explaining what the Tanakhama said in the Reisha, that you're allowed to sleep with him in the bed. And it must be that the whole Mishnah was really like Rabbi Huda. Because if you don't say like this, so then when we're having in this Mishnah that we're saying V'yoshni my b'mita, so who would that be? If you held carte blanche, you're allowed to sleep with him in the bed. If it wasn't that Rabbi Huda is qualifying that and explaining that, so it wouldn't be like Rameya or Rabbi Huda. Rameya says you're never allowed to be in the bed, and Rabbi Huda says, well, it's only during the summer or it's only when it's large. If the Mishnah said you could sleep with him in the bed, that would sound like carte blanche, like you're always allowed to, but that wouldn't be like anyone in the Tanam we know. So the Ran explains that it's really all Rabbi Huda. Rabbi Huda is just explaining what we meant, Yoshni B'mita, but no one holds carte blanche. No one holds you allowed to always sleep in the bed because obviously you might be benefiting him. Now the Mishnah continued and said, al hamita, but you're allowed to sleep, you're allowed to recline with him on the bed, and you're allowed to go ahead and eat with him on the same table. But we said you cannot eat from this large platter because we're concerned that maybe one guy, out of deference, honor to his friend, might eat less, and it comes that he's going to be benefiting him. But we said you could eat from the plate that's going to go back anyways to the balabais. He explains this idea. It's mean there's so much that the rest is going to go back to the balabais, so you're not going to be benefiting by the kiddush when the two of you, the mother and the mother, are eating together. You're both eating from the same plate, looking at each other with that hatred. It doesn't make a difference. You're not benefiting because there's so much here. It doesn't make a difference if you eat less and he eats more. Now the next Mishnah continues on the same theme about benefiting the mother from what you're going to do. So a very similar halacha to the previous Mishnah, that they used to give in front of the workers. It's like literally a very crass term, but like a trough, which is literally like what the animals, you put in front of the animals, the trough, and they like the cup, me'es. So the workers, the mess hall, they would just have this large bowl that they put in front of the workers. And since they work, they eat a lot, so they stuff them like animals, and therefore it's called the avos. I mean, they would stuff them up. It says, let's get them a lot of carbs and protein down there, so they'll do good work. Now, if one of them is going to eat less, is going to be benefiting the other guy. Now, as the Ram points out, since by the workers, none of this trough stuff is going back to the employer. These guys are eating every last bit of this mess, whatever is thrown to them. So therefore, we don't say the case of avos hachoizer, that it'll be permitted in that case. No, so you have this huge plate that's given for the workers. So he cannot eat with him from the same avos, because again, he might eat less, and this guy might eat more because of him, and that'll be benefiting him. So there's in a vineyard there are rows, and this guy cannot work with him on the same row in the vineyard, because when he's plowing in front of him the ground, he's going to be benefiting him because he's softening the ground for the other guy. Now, even if he's far from him, according to this opinion of the Mishnah, Divrei Meir says forbidden, because as the Gemara is going to explain, he makes this gezerah of rachuk atu karib. So even though when you're far away, it's not really benefiting him, but we're going to say it's forbidden because of when you're close. They disagree. They say no. He could do it as long as he's far away from him, because they're not geyser rachuk atu karib. As the Gemara explains, big karib, when the guy in the same row, the mother and the mudder, are near each other, like pligidas, no one's going to disagree that it's going to be forbidden, because you're benefiting the other guy, because you're softening the ground in front of him when you're digging near him, and that guy doesn't have to dig with so much strength. Meaning, even you're on different parts, but like even just digging near him, it softens the ground. The ground right near already becomes softer. So everyone agrees that it's going to be forbidden. Was berachik. Since he's far away from him, so he's not softening the ground. He's down over there. He's down over here. What does that have to do with Yenim? Meir holds that a geyser far because of close. Because the kamarapi leila arakame. Because if he would be close, he'd be softening the ground in front of him. So therefore, we don't let you even when you're far. Rabban Rabban hold that with not geyser, and therefore they hold that would be permitted as long as you're not near the other person. Thank you for any time. I'll see us.